can you describe your journey towards realizing that the traditional tools that a lot of Buddhist systems provide us with aren't necessarily adequate to addressing all the levels of suffering or trauma which people encounter, and what made you feel that you needed to create the integrated meditation system and sort of a more robust way of addressing those issues in people's lives and practices?
So I love that question, Bante. I think really the answer is from my own direct experience. So, as you said, I've been meditating decades. It's nearly 50 years that I've been meditating, and went on retreats and had deep experiences and life changing and transformational insights. And yet there were certain kind of core beliefs or core patterns that wouldn't shift. So what was remarkable to me is that even with these like liberating insights, I could still go back to places where feeling like there was something fundamentally wrong with me. Or, I referred to that sense as like a basic sense of badness. And there was no frame of reference that I could find within the traditional teachings that made sense about how that was possible. And it wasn't a lack of determination or practice opportunities or immersion into teachings. And so I knew it wasn't just simply a matter of doing more. And I had enough insight to recognize it wasn't that I was doing it wrong. And so then there was just a sense of, okay, so if I'm not doing it wrong and doing more is not necessarily going to have a different result, then what are the other options? And so for me, the other options was to look and see about what other kinds of frames of reference and tools and modalities are there. And that led me into like parallel practices and alternative um, modalities and different kinds of therapies. And everything that I've done has had some value. There's nothing that I've done that hasn't been useful. And all along, there's been an interest in, seeing how these things integrate and how the Buddhist teachings support, where they diverge, and what the value of them is. And so the trauma work that I did for myself was hugely beneficial. But the attachment repair work that I did was mind blowing. And part of the reason why it was so mind blowing was because in a relatively short period of time, that sense of basic badness shifted and was no longer my baseline. It was
Mm.
not a place that I returned to again. And so for myself, when I recognized the difference in me and what my own personal experience was, and then I looked around both at my students and colleagues and what was happening in the monastery, it was sort of like all kinds of things made sense that hadn't made sense before in terms of understanding some of the complexities that we were navigating and within a frame of reference didn't have the language to actually describe it.